Okay, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the council meeting for Wednesday, May the 10th. The first order of business is call to order and the land acknowledgement. We are gathered on the lands that have been home to First Nations people from time immemorial. We acknowledge that what we now call Richmond Hill is on the treaty lands and territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nations and the Mississaugas and Chippewa Nations of the Williams Treaty. We also recognize that we are on part of the traditional territories of the Haudenosaunee and the Huron-Wendat. We would also like to acknowledge that all First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people from across North America, also known as Turtle Island, who now reside in the city of Richmond Hill, we are committed to rebuilding constructive and cooperative relationships. So at this point, I'd like everybody to stand if you can for the national anthem. Thanks very much. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is a public forum. We have two delegates today, Yoke Wong. Yoke, if you want to come on up, welcome. And this is on behalf of the Richmond Hill Road Watch Committee regarding Canada Road Safety Week. So Ms. Wong, you've got 5 minutes and welcome to council.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone.
If you could just speak into the microphone or that one. And we've got a presentation, I think, up on the screen, which is also in front of you, I believe.
Oh, yes.
So you can follow along.
All right, thank you. Good morning. My name is Yoke Wong. I am a member of the Richmond Hill Road Watch Committee, and we are here to raise awareness of the Road Watch program and foster participation and partnership. Next slide, please. May 16th to 22nd is Canada Road Safety Week. It is a nationwide enforcement-driven initiative and focuses on driving behaviors that put all road users at risk. The Richmond Hill Road Watch Committee wants to put the spotlight on the driving behavior that falls within our purview, which is aggressive driving. This will be on top of mind for our committee all year round. Who are we and what is Road Watch? Next slide. Road Watch has a storied beginning 30 years ago this Mother's Day, following a horrific and fatal traffic accident in Caledon, Ontario. In its current state, it is a community-driven program that provides residents with a mechanism to report aggressive driving they see in their community. The Road Watch online reporting tool is located on the York Regional Police or YRP website and can be reached from the Richmond Hill City website. The submission form is available in multiple languages. How does Road Watch work? A person who observed aggressive driving would submit an online report that includes the incident's date, time, location, vehicle description and license plate, and details of what they saw. Example, speeding, tailgating, unsafe lane changes, disobeying traffic signs, holding a cell phone while driving, etc. Once submitted, YRP will perform their due diligence and take next steps. Generally, a first offense means YRP will send the vehicle's owner a letter. On a second offense, YRP will telephone the owner. And a third offense could bring police officers to the owner's door with possible charges. Additionally, YRP can use the submitted reports to identify hotspots of aggressive driving where they can focus their attention. Does Road Watch work? Next slide. From October to March, for the YRP number 2 district that includes Richmond Hill, 148 letters were sent to owners of vehicles reported for aggressive driving. This means that residents are actively doing their part to keep our roads safe through the Road Watch program. But it also means aggressive driving persists on our roads, and that needs to change. Here is where the Richmond Hill Road Watch Committee can make a difference. Next slide. Richmond Hill started its Road Watch program in 2002. Every 4 years, citizen members volunteer to serve on the Road Watch Committee. The committee's purpose is simple. That is to make Richmond Hill's roads safe. To that end, the members work with the YRP officers and staff from Richmond Hill's Transit Safety and Operations Department to fulfill the committee's mandate. At community events, we share the message of Road Watch and promote safe driving. The modest funds received from the city and other sources like MTO grants cover expenses such as promotional items given out at these events. We want to do better and more, and we have many ideas. Next slide. Just 4 months into the term, our small committee has kickstarted a few of those ideas and set targets for 2023. Number 1, since inception, the Road Watch Committee has shared the message at community events. We will continue to educate and promote the program through various activities. Number 2, in February, we made a few suggestions to YRP to enhance their online reporting tool. We are happy to say that our request to add a French language form was approved. Number 3, we are developing a responsibility assignment RACI chart that will provide clarity and structure for the committee and open up opportunities to fulfill our mandate. Number 4, not many residents know about Road Watch and what the committee does. So we will work to raise the program's profile and increase our committee presence. Today's presentation at Council is a first step. And number 5, we have initiated an activity with a goal to enhance the city's Road Watch page to make the content readable, easy to understand, and navigate to the YRP Road Watch online reporting tool. Those are just the beginning. Final slide, please.
You're a little bit over time, so if you can just wrap it up, that'd be great.
Thank you. We encourage everyone's participation and welcome your collaboration. Be part of the committee's journey and success. To our residents, learn about Road Watch, practice safe driving, and report aggressive driving. To the city and council, be our Road Watch champion. Include Road Watch in events, newsletters, social media, educate staff on Road Watch, and direct residents to YRP's Road Watch online reporting tool. And to our other partners and stakeholders, we appreciate your funding support. Leverage our committee in your projects and initiatives. Involve us to make Richmond Hill's road safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wong. And I think I probably speak for everybody in the sense that we certainly support the work that you do. And if you have stuff to help us get the word out for you, I've certainly myself would be happy to do that. And I suspect that my colleagues would do the same. So, if you can send that stuff our way, we certainly would be happy to help and support that.
Okay, we will. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Okay, the next person on the public forum is John Lee regarding lessons learned from past restrictions on resident engagement in municipal affairs. Mr. Lee, you've got 5 minutes.
I want to test for these slides. Okay. Morning, everyone. My name is John Lee. I want to discuss resident engagement today. During local elections, some candidates promise it, but often don't keep their promise afterwards. For instance, at council meetings, people can only speak for 5 minutes. This is not enough for complex topics. Why not let residents fully share their thoughts on special occasions? If not, what can we expect for residents' engagement? You may see, write your comments, concerns down. We have tried that. We spend lots of time preparing detailed submissions with data, drawings, and reference, but mostly receive just an acknowledgement. Our work seemed wasted. This has happened many times. Some say planning should be left for professionals. We once agreed, but now we see issues. An example is the Young Bernard KDA. Planners use 1,200 square feet as the average apartment size for over 5,000 units, which didn't make sense. We questioned with the data and real life examples, but was ignored repeatedly. At LPAC, they cited the York Region guideline as evidence that at least 1,200 square feet was the real size for apartment. We lost the case at LPAC. I later asked York Region, that's the example. I asked York Region why their size was so different. They said it was based on a survey of 18 projects that include three projects in Richmond Hill. After 2 months comprehensive investigation, I found that it was Richmond Hill planners confused two simplest planning terms. Which lead to York Region potentially the guideline with mistake. So our planners made this mistake and then use it as evidence in court against us and win. In the past, we have seen too many planning data and assumptions that do not make sense, yet the city won't explain or discuss with us. This damage our trust in the city planning jobs. If the city had listened, that 1,200 square feet error won't have happened. By the way, if we change the 1,200 to real size 800, the Young Bernard KDA have to completely rewrite. Even now, our planners won't admit this clear mistake, even if they cannot prove they are correct. What about the more complex issue can we expect? The result that same mistake, identical mistake happened again. This is exactly the same mistake. Confuse the basic terminology, the simplest terminology for a professional. You blame us for not trusting you and the city, but your action and factors has caused you to lose credibility. Why does this keep happening? There is no accountability. That was why planners ignored residents' concerns repeatedly. We think the 1,200 square feet error was careless, but after repeat remind, they still
Point of order.
refuse to admit it.
Mr. Lee, stop, please. Point of order.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, I really don't like to point of order a resident, but I find what he's saying is offensive, and it's offensive to our staff, and our staff can't even defend themselves as to whether or not what he is saying is correct.
Yeah, I would agree. I would ask you to keep your comments on the side of the line that's not pointing fingers and making accusations.
Factor is a factor. The arrogance comes from the power and the lack of accountability.
Okay, Mr. Lee, we're not using words like arrogance, okay? So if you're going to continue to use language like that, I'm going to ask you to stop.
Some municipal members fear residents' engagement because it leads to accountability and transparency, ending easy, irresponsible times. We hope this term of council will improve the efficiency and the transparency. We encourage you to do so. We will strongly support you to do so. Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda is council announcements. Deputy Mayor Garbin-Chan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Let me first say I thank Ms. Wong and all the members of this term Richmond Hill Road Watch Committee for her presentation. This is a good time during the week, as you indicated. As a founding treasurer and the founding fundraising chair back 21 years ago, along with the late mayor, then regional council, Dave Barrow, and myself, and a number of people, concerned citizens, we actually get together and establish this Road Watch Committee in Richmond Hill, even though Road Watch is somewhere else. And I am thankful to past and current council continue support. And I did hear Ms. Wong is only modest. As a founding fundraising committee chair, I know it's not easy, but certainly local businesses have been very responsive. And in particular, York Regional Police, the core unit, has been very supportive. They came to the meetings all the time. So I think this is a really a prime example how the community can work together, police with the city together to promote road safety. I particularly want to share, and I personally take pride in it as I was its councillor then, on one of the most busiest streets in Richmond Hill on High Tech Avenue. Every time you drive into that street, either from Yonge Street or from Bayview, there's a big sign there. And I believe the first time and still the only big sign in Richmond Hill that have the logos of York Regional Police, Richmond Hill, as well as Road Watch, and proudly declare Richmond Hill is a Road Watch community. Please drive responsibly. So I want to give credits and compliments to everyone involved in the last 21 years, particularly for these terms. Please continue to keep our roads safe in city of Richmond Hill. And thank you, Mr. Mayor, for me to share with this. The other item I want to share was that last Sunday, well, it's actually not that many days ago, myself have the privilege to join myself, Mayor West, and also local councillor Chi and one councillor Davidson in the height of hospice for the Hill House Hospice in celebrating not only 25 years of exemplary service in hospice, but also raising money. So I think that soon after the speeches, the weather seems to be look the other way, but I think everybody who participated had really good time and feeling that they are contributing a worthy cause in our city. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Anybody else for announcements? Councillor Tree?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Through Mr. Chair to our Richmond Hill Road Watch Committee. Thank you so much for your presentation. From my perspective, in Ward 4, we have around 9 schools, except one school hasn't reached to me complaining about the traffic issue yet. The rest of them all complain traffic. So from my perspective, if you have any information, especially for the slide, can you please also send me or us a copy? So we want to promote the road safeties. We conduct in the Ward 4, we conduct road safety meetings with community schools and also parents here discussing different solutions. Quantum technology is one of them, but it's really long term. For short term, we mentioned also the road watch, but I want to see more materials or documentation from your side. Then in my community, I'll send one more time for the residents who know this is program kicking, especially near the school areas. I want to see more residents hear this news, and I want to promote this program too. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councillor. Anybody else for announcements? Okay, I've got a couple. So at 3:00 today, well, today is McHappy Day. So if anybody is feeling like they need lunch or a coffee or whatever, McDonald's is putting on their annual McHappy Day. It's a good cause. I will be at the 16th Avenue drive-through, but if you are going to drive through at the time that I'm there, just be aware that I'm going to be concentrating very hard and not giving people the wrong order. So I might not have time to talk to you. I also wanted to just mention that we are doing the multiple sclerosis flag raising on May the 17th at 3 p.m. here at the East Beaver Creek flagpoles. MS is a disease that's horrible. I've had some experience, unfortunately, in my family with that. And, it's something that Canadians seem to suffer from more than people worldwide. So it is definitely something that is an important issue in our community. So if you are free at 3:00 to come out and support the MS Society, that would be wonderful on the 17th of May. And finally, I'm doing this because my mother told me to. It's Mother's Day on Sunday. And I just wanted to, I don't know whether she's watching, but if so, Mom, hi, happy Mother's Day. I love you. And I just wanted to give a shout out to this very important day. I remember as a child, I used to ask my mom, why do they have a Mother's Day and why do they never have a Kids Day? And I don't know about everybody else, but it's probably a common answer that, well, every day is Kids Day and only one day is Mother's Day. So thanks to all the mothers in our community. Thank you. Oh, sorry, Councillor Tree.
Sorry, Mayor, I
Did
forgot.
you forget to say something?
Yeah, that's right. This Sunday, we're gonna have this hospital straight running fundraising events. So it's for our both hospitals. One is in our city, which is the Magazine Hospital. Another one is in one city. So every year they organize this fundraising straight. So if you cannot go there running or walking, but we do have online support. If you want, please donate and support our house. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, the next item on the agenda then, seeing no other announcements, is the introduction of emergency and time-sensitive matters. Seeing none. Okay, I need a motion at this point to adopt the agenda. Councillor Silovitz, Councillor Tree, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries unanimously. Disclosures of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof. Councillor, no, okay. We're good. All right, seeing none, Mr. Clerk. Adoption of previous council minutes. We only have one today for the council meeting on April the 26th. Okay, Councillor Chan, anybody else? Oh, Councillor Thompson. Okay, thank you. The next item is identification. Do you want us to vote too? All right, that's a good idea. All right, all those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. See, I do that every now and again just to make sure people are paying attention. So, Councillor Liu, way to go. Okay, so we need to look at identification of items requiring separate discussion. We have 15.1.8, we have a delegation on, and the bylaw 18.5. Everything else could be passed on consent unless there's anybody that would like to pull anything for discussion. Okay, see.
Thanks, Mayor. And I would like to put out for a separate discussion for 15.1.8 for the Richmond Hill Center.
Yeah, it's already pulled. Yeah, so we're good with that. So
To make sure.
yeah, that gets pulled automatically because we have a delegation. Okay, everybody else okay? All right, so can I get a mover and seconders to adopt the rest on consent? Okay, Councillor Liu, Councillor Davidson, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries unanimously. Okay, so that means that we've adopted all items except 15.1.8, 18.5, the bylaw, and the confirmatory bylaw. All right, we can do that. Yep. Okay, that's good. All right, so the next item then is public hearings, and I don't think we have any today. We have no presentations, I believe. So we're on to our first delegation. So Howard, if you want to come up, speaking on the Richmond Hill Center secondary plan. Thank you for being here live and in person.
Always a pleasure. Mr. Mayor, members of council. Others may try and some may succeed in presenting persuasive arguments based on sound logic and extensive empirical evidence about both the multiple hazards and the foreseeable catastrophes, both environmental and social, that may face this community if, for example, what I will call the mummification of Richmond Hill Center proceeds. By mummification, I mean the creation of one of the most densely populated areas on the planet. A project which I believe is not sufficiently supported by infrastructure, current or planned. I don't have the expertise to do that, and I don't have the time. So my remarks take a different path. I'm going to speak briefly about what I will call the moral context of this proposal. Most of you, I think, have considered the matter and are inclined either to agree with the plan, perhaps with a few reservations, or to oppose the plan, perhaps with some accommodation for compromise. So I'm going to direct my remarks at those who are already skeptical of the plan. It's been argued that opposition is futile, that in the end, the provincial government and the corporate interests it represents will succeed. Why then alienate dominant interests and powers by standing up against it? Some may see the wisdom of ex-Councillor Barros, whose last remarks included a suggestion that if people start out opposing something and it passes, they learn to live with it. And they find out, well, it wasn't so bad after all. He was wrong about that. And his complacency, whether born at one extreme out of conspiracy or another out of servility, probably somewhere in the middle, is wrong here too. The plan promotes development, in quotes, but development implies a natural evolution, the opening of a flower, the coming of a butterfly, the growth of a child. This is not development. It is degradation, and it is the imposition of a socially and environmentally unsustainable cancer in the bowels of this city. When you campaign for office, you promise to adopt good policies in the interest of citizens and the future of Richmond Hill. In my opinion, this is not good policy. It is a disease that will rapidly metastasize. This council has been in place for only a few months, but it is not too late it is not too early to consider your legacy. It's time to realize that the current premier, and in deference to the caution about language, I will not use the word bully, which is the one I intended to use. Let's just say the current leader is a strong leader. And there's only one way to stop strong leaders, and that's to stand up to them. On this issue and on the whole urban industrial holocaust that is on the agenda for the no longer progressive and now not even conservative government, which could, I think, be called the Facilitation Committee of the Development Industry. I urge you to stand up. If you do, he and they may back down. But if they don't, you can at least slow them down. And at the very least, you will not have made yourselves complicit in the damage that will inevitably follow. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next person to delegate is Mr. Lee. You've got 5 minutes, sir.
Good morning, everyone. Actually, during the past 2 weeks, we already have extensive email exchange with members of councils. I believe right now, everybody already know what exactly this plan is. Just whether you want to admit or not. This plan has a lot of flaws, can be easily proved. Because time limitation, I cannot reach everyone. For example, this plan assumes 51,000 residents only need 2 schools. This can be simply proved is wrong. For example, use Richmond Hill as an example. We have 200,000 residents, 40 schools. See the slides. So basically 5,000 residents, 1 school. So if you use this ratio, 50,000 students should be 10 schools. Let's assume apartment has less kids. So double the standard, we still need 5 schools. You may argue, we are not at high density. How about let's use St. Jamestown as example. That's the highest dense community in Canada, also Western countries, is slightly less than our proposed. I checked the 2021 static data. 12.1% of population are students 6 to 17 years old. Use this ratio times the population in RHC will come up 6,000 students. Generally speaking, this is 6 to 8 schools. So how can you prove or make us believe 2 schools is enough? We have lost these samples, but you don't give me time to prove it. So basically, we have a lot of assumptions for the future projections. To be honest, I cannot prove the future assumption is wrong because nobody can do it. But we can use today's example to a comparison. For example, if this IHC was implemented as proposed, will be world top 10 dense communities based on this chart. So I want our planners give us a few examples. Just for same infrastructure, same density, prove us it works. I know you can make tons of reports through the future assumptions, but give me the real world example. I want to see it. Our residents want to see it. You believe this is a viable, this very great community, but the fact proof is not. Let's see this drawing. So the left is the typical parking lot, 15 square meters. The middle one is the St. Jamestown, 12.6. The very right is the proposed IHC, 11.8 square meters. See, not even can parking a car. How can you prove this is a livable, suspendable community? Legally, in theory, it's impossible and current technology. Maybe after 200 years it's possible, but not today. Prove us, give some examples to prove your design is correct. We ask for nothing. Prove us. So far, we ask for nothing. Just an opportunity give the residents a chance to examine this very complicated plan that will last 50 years, will impact the whole Richmond Hill and entire York region. So let's give an example. Right now, this plan is a contract made, RTC is a contract made by planners. The council is the agent to basically negotiate, review this project and sign on behalf of shareholder or our residents. So as the share owners, we found these contract terms has issues. But as an agent, you insist not let the owner to review the details of contract. This doesn't make sense. So far, the past 2 weeks, we only argue for one thing. Let me review the details of contract, nothing else. Why cannot you allow us to do so? This is against constitutional right to let citizens to know. This is not a planning issue. This basically you try to use your power restrict our constitutional right to know. We ask for nothing. We want to know the details. So by the way, the last I want to remind them, in the past, the common practice for the council under pressure is that they add a special declaration terms to that contract or plan. And then you try to release that pressure and then pass it. But the problem still there. I hope today our council will not introduce this discussion.
Okay, Mr. Lee, your time
thank
is
you.
up. Thank you. Okay, the next person to speak is Alex Wong, again on the Richmond Hill Center secondary plan. Mr. Wong, I see you there on the screen. I think you're unmuted, so you can go ahead and start whenever you're ready.
Okay, just before I start, I guess this is a Microsoft system we are using. So can somebody give me a confirmation that you can hear me?
We can hear you.
All right, thank you. Okay, here we go. I guess everybody knows that the name is Alex, and I have lived in the Elgin Mills Bayview area for over 30 years. And I thank for the opportunity to voice my opinion regarding this issue on the Richmond Hill Center secondary plan. Now, the plan calls for unheard population density, which will be detrimental to any place on earth, not to mention Richmond Hill. A selling point by the provincial government is that the extension of the subway into that area. That sure will facilitate better commutes between Toronto and Richmond Hill Center. However, a presentation by a traffic engineering expert in the Professional Engineer Ontario technical sessions indicates there is no problem for transit inside Toronto and between Toronto and other GTA areas, which means Toronto and Richmond Hill. The problem is transportation between GTA areas. Hence, the subway's extension will not have a big impact, even with the existing traffic problems. Not with the majority of residents trying to get to work outside Toronto. And these people use cars. As a bus driver in Richmond Hill and Markham, I have real life experience about how bad the traffic conditions are. Before the pandemic, buses are normally late for 10 to 15 minutes. Think about that in the middle of winter. And I have experienced a 45 minutes behind schedule run, which is on a clear day without any traffic accidents. Without capping population or limiting population increase, the only thing that proved capable of resolving the traffic issue is something we call a coronavirus. Efforts of building more roads and lanes without population control have basically turned a congested single lane traffic into 2 or 3 lane congestions. Lecture notes on traffic engineering by a university in Switzerland also states that no measure can solve traffic gridlock once there are too many road users. And we are now looking at a plan of potentially bringing the highest population density on earth here. The congestion we are going to see is also resulting in drivers doing potentially dangerous moves just to cut down on their travel times, i.e. it's a safety issue as well. I see it happening more often these days as there are more and more road users as we are recovering from the pandemic. Although this immoral development plan originates from the directives of the provincial government, there is no reason why Richmond Hill should go along with it. With a plan that harms everyone, unless you are the landowner and or developers involved. I urge the council to reject the Richmond Hill Center secondary plan final draft and instead redraft a plan that can eliminate all the negative aspects of these unethical densities. In our world today, those who do not fight against harmful actions normally do not end well. I hope the council is willing to fight for the interests of Richmond Hill and its residents. It would be bad if Zelensky is the only leader who is willing to fight for his people. Thanks for your time.
Okay, thank you so much. At this point, we've exhausted our speakers list, so we'll bring this back to council. So we'll bring forward 15.1.8, the Richmond Hill Center Secondary Plan. We need somebody to kick off the discussion on that plan. Councillor Silovitz and Councillor Shu are next, and then we'll get a speakers list going. So Councillor Silovitz, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to all our speakers. It's greatly appreciated. I would like to just mention a few points that have been raised here today and prior with regards to what has been said. One of the most important things is that the secondary plan represents a manner in which we try our best to protect the rest of that particular location. The EMZO sits within the entire Richmond Hill Center. So the EMZO governs and dictates, and I don't use that word lightly, governs and dictates what will happen within that central portion of the EMZO. The EMZO was placed by the provincial government, not by us, the provincial government. I have advocated over and over again that EMZOs, MZOs are undemocratic. They should not exist. I've never voted for one, and I never shall vote for another. My feelings towards the EMZO in the Richmond Hill Center are exactly the same. They're undemocratic. I don't believe that that plan is democratic. It should not be there. What we are trying to do with the secondary plan is to put in place beneath our official plan some policies that we can use to protect the other areas. And in my situation, as the Ward 5 councillor, most specifically, the west side of Young. If we do not put in place this secondary plan, we leave the west side of Young at extreme risk for overdevelopment. Is it good policy? I think it was Mr. Doughty who mentioned that word. Is it good policy? I believe it is. I believe our secondary plan is good policy. It has gone through extensive public consultation. It has gone through extensive council discussion and debate. We are not complicit in any way here. I believe that was Mr. Doherty's word as well. And is there a moral context? Absolutely. The moral context is that we must step forward to do the very best for Richmond Hill. That's what the 9 of us have been elected to do. And we believe, I certainly believe, I'm not going to speak for the rest of council, I believe that the secondary plan is absolutely critical to protect our interests, our municipal interests within the Richmond Hill Center. With regards to the schools, Mr. Lee, to you, Mr. Chair, I don't need an answer here. I'm just simply directing this to you because you refer to the schools. We have nothing to do with the schools. It's up to the school boards as to whether or not they are going to propose 1 school or 10 schools. It is not up to us. In the same way that it is very difficult for us to negate anything with regards to the EMZO because it is provincial. No, there's no discussion. I'm simply making a statement here. The EMZO is provincial. It is placed there. We have railed against it publicly over and over and over again. We've sent notifications to the province telling them exactly how we feel. We've done that for the residents and for the city. That's our due diligence. If we did any less, we would be derelict in our duty as councillors, as leaders. So in the same way that the EMZO is in place because of the province, school boards are the ones who will decide how many schools will eventually, ultimately go into that area. It's not us. Speak to our MPPs, speak to our school trustees, speak to the school board. Those are the people who you should be railing against when it comes to those particular things. Not us. Not us. I'll gladly bring forward those staff recommendations.
Okay, thank you. I need a seconder. Councillor Shu, you'd be willing to second and you would like to speak to it?
Thanks, Mayor. As a current local councillor where the Richmond Hill Centre located, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to the planning staff for the effort on this remarkable project, standing as the largest development in the history of our city. And I would also like to extend my thanks to the planning team for organizing various public consultations, like public open houses, public information sections, special council meeting, leading up to the council meeting today. As a local councillor, I'm excited and eagerly expect the bright future and that lies ahead for the Richmond Hill Centre, not only for residential and commercial purposes, but also we have parks, we have schools, we have walkable, livable areas. So in overall, I'm going to support and second the motion and to make the plan move forward. However, before raising my hand to support this plan, I feel obligated to express two concerns on this project. The first one is TOC. As we all know, TOC located within the inner area, the core area of the Richmond Hill Centre, which is protected by the EMZO and is untouchable by the regional government and also the municipal government. Given the addition of more than 30 high-rise condominiums with the tallest reaching 80 stories and projected population increase of over 80,000 residents, I'm wondering this plan can accommodate such a sharp increase in population size to preserve the character of the Richmond Hill Centre at the same time. And also following the regional policy direction, we have to ensure that within the Richmond Hill Centre area, a minimum of 35% of the new housing units are designated as affordable housing. So we have to pay attention on this. The second concern I would like to address is the promotion of public transit usage, particularly in relation to the Yonge North subway. It's crucial to recognize that the subway and buses will not only serve the residents just living right upstairs in the condominiums and within the Richmond Hill Centre area, but also with a much larger area covering like Bayview, Leslie, 16, Major Mackenzie, Barbaras. So I believe the success of the plan will heavily rely on how people are willing to take public transit. We may work together with the regional and provincial government and also Metrolinx to potentially develop, maybe develop a new form of public transit, like shuttle buses, like minibuses, to connect people to the subway station and transportation hub. This aspect plays a critical role to ensure the success of the Richmond Hill Centre secondary plan. As a local councillor, I've received many inquiries regarding the density aspect of the plan. It's important to note that the approach to density within the Richmond Hill Centre is impacted by the EMZO and will require refinement to conform to the EMZO development permissions. The EMZO restricts the city's ability to implement inclusionary zoning within the EMZO lands. So, unfortunately, there are limitations on what we can do, honestly. So I humbly hope that the province will take the wishes of the community into consideration regarding density and affordable housing. That's all the comments I've made on the secondary plan. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. The next person on our speakers list is Councillor Tree.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Chair. I call the school issues. I used to be the school trustee for the school, so I was in the property committee regarding to the original or plan. I remember that time being we have 2 schools there, but the height of the school is around 3 or 4 floors. Regarding to the new one, the second one, I have no information, but I know the school will be the highest school from floor perspective in York region. So that's my comment for that one. From my personal perspective, from last week, we have the OPA meetings, right? I always think we need more time to have the public engagement. I remember the timeline from last week, May 11, will be tomorrow. We're going to release our OPA. Also, June 7, we have open house, but it's only for 2 hours. And June 28, we're going to make a public meeting again. From this second plan perspective, as I echo my previous conference meeting, my statements here, we need a public involvement. We need to hear more information. For me, last week was the first time I heard there are differences compared to original, compared to second plan. We have around 10,000 jobs, or I forgot, maybe 6,000 jobs cut off. Also, density is reaching higher as well. That information I got from last week. Even for myself, I need to absorbing this tons of information. And that was the last week. And today we're going to make a decision. We should submit it to York Region for approval. That's a little bit harsh for me from my understanding. We worked with our contractors, cities, everybody for many, many years. Why we cannot have more time to invite the public to have a conversation, also council to think about it and hear more voice as well. I can see from city perspective, we're going to have meetings discussing OPA as well. So why we cannot have more time to discussing the second plan as well? We are welcome to different voices, right? And also, another one is transparencies. I haven't seen any Q&A information published in web portal yet. I want to see the residents, council members, etc. If you have more questions, not only documented in our PDF files, also published to the web portal. So all the citizens has opportunity. What is question are there? What is answer are there? What is our criteria there? I remember in the YRDSP, it used to have a lot of questions regarding COVID-19's model changes. All the questions raised up from parents listed on portal, and all the answers are provided by the YRDP spell. For city, we are considered a 50 years strategic plans. So it's good opportunity to have all voice being heard, also being published. Everyone has questions, list there is our city's standard and our city's answer. This way in future, I'll say 5 or 4 years later, maybe this committee is gone and someone coming to our position still have opportunity to look what we have discussed, what decision will be. Based on those feedback, we can make our right decision. For the second plan, I would like suggest, still echo my previous meeting, have more time for open house, have all time to hear the public voices. And for my personal, I want to have more time, as I echo my previous comments. Hopefully 1 or 2 months time to get information, to get answers, to publish those information on the web portal. And we have less conflicts between the residents, our city staff, and also city council. So at least we have some kind of agreement in the middle. That is my personal opinion. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Next person on my list is Regional Local Councillor DePaula.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am happy to support the adoption of the official plan amendment regarding the Richmond Hill Center. I think this is a futuristic proposal, the likes of which has not been seen or contemplated in Canada for this amount of population to be designated all at one time. I mean, it will develop over time and grow over the next 10 to 30 years. But you know, in one shot, in one plan, first the provincial government has come in and zoned this massive proposal, and our staff has done, I believe, an excellent job with their hands tied and with the decisions already made to plan the surrounding area, to do everything we can with the tools we have and the abilities we have to lessen the impact of this massive minister's zoning order and this very, very dense 8 blocks that have been imposed on Richmond Hill. We've expanded out the larger area and developed a workable plan within all the constraints that we have. So there isn't a lot that Richmond Hill could do differently given the circumstances. We had planned over the last 20 years for an exciting commercial district at the intersection of Yonge and Highway 7, and that plan was nixed by the province, and they've weighted this quite differently to be a dense residential community with a commercial and employment component. I think our staff has done a great job with this plan, but they continue to negotiate with the province. They continue to try to leverage anything we can to acquire and attain more employment in this area, more affordable housing, and you know, I'm confident that their efforts will be fruitful in the long run. You know, in as much as possible given the circumstances. So I'm you know, I'm confident that we've done a good job in the creation of this plan. We have taken over 4 years. We've consulted our public. We've had a good process to get to this point today, and you know, there's a lot of objection, but not any concrete suggestions as to what we could do differently. And I think that's a testament to that we have actually done all we can. I think we could go another 6 months or a year or 5 more years, and within the powers that we have as a lower tier municipality, there's not a lot we can do to change the impact of, you know, 90% of the impact of this secondary plan has been set in stone by the province. So I want to alleviate some people's fears and look to other places where there are comparisons. The Richmond Hill Center itself, the very core, has a higher density than other areas, but it's an exaggeration to compare it to cities and say that it's a higher population per capita than other cities. The entire island of Manhattan has only a slightly less dense population across the entire island of Manhattan than what you're seeing in the Richmond Hill Center. And they do things differently. They have high schools with 3,000 to 5,000 students in them. They function very well. It's very different. It's different than what we're used to in suburban GTA. There's no school buses. There's no parents driving and dropping off. Everyone is by definition in walking distance of every amenity. The schools can and will be built. There'll be twice as many schools as there would be servicing per capita servicing this area than there is in Manhattan, for example. And there are some excellent world-class schools in Manhattan, and I believe it will be too. We're going to bring the same excellence to this area that we do to the rest of Richmond Hill. I'm happy to support the secondary plan proposal. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor, the next person is Regional Local Councillor Deputy Mayor Chan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for all the delegates, not only at this meeting, but also the last week's committee of the whole, as well as one of the delegates said, this is 2 weeks or even more in terms of providing the comments, input, and I appreciate that. Now, one of the things that I've been talking about is, if I'm hearing right, is that Why rush? Why not consult more? Let me address it head on. I was the councillor for the local council Ward 6 for the majority of the area in this Richmond Hill Center. Ward 5 Councillor Civil is absolutely right. The city or the town then needs to have a policy planning framework to deal with applications that come in that in this area, all the way at Young and 16 Cowville to just Young and 7. This is in 2019, way before the current government brings in this enhanced minister zoning order, which to me, it is far exceeds what the city has been planning for in the Richmond Hill Center. It far exceeds the populations, it far exceeds the height, it far exceeds density. As well, it reduces the job estimated number. It reduces parkland, reduce open space. So I think my position towards the provincial TOC is very evident. Now, having said that, I just also want to say I am looking back, my very first communication to resident in Ward 6, and that's my recollection is at least 55,000 copies have been sent to businesses and residents in Ward 6 at that time in fall, winter 2019-2020. So it's roughly about October, November. So if anybody living in the area that are affected, they would have heard and seen from the local councillor around October, November 2019. Interesting enough, I have in my newsletter page 2, please visit richmondhill.ca, Richmond Hill Center, and provide comments to the project manager. The project manager, Mr. Chong, is still sitting here 4 years then. So this is a 4-year duration that has been brought to the public, at least by local council in Ward 6, and I'm absolutely sure Ward 5 councillor civils have been doing that. Moving forward, that at least 5 public open houses before COVID, June 2019, November 19, last week's meeting, I say I still have vivid memory. The whole venue at Landstar Community Center gym is packed of hundreds of people. Tell me there's no public engagement. I beg to differ. Maybe in other areas of the city, people might not necessarily pay attention because I wasn't representing the city, I was representing Ward 6, which I mandate of. Fast forward, in spring, summer 2022, I moved that attention of my Ward 6 people, business and residents to page 1, front page of my newsletter called Ward Watch. Help me to watch the ward. So you can see the progression. By then it moved from page 2 to page 1, but also importantly, there have been successive public sessions. And even during COVID, people can still write in. I would end by saying this. What's the alternative? Should we do nothing? And Councillor Stevens and I know, do nothing, what does it mean? Where do we stand when we go to the previous Ontario Municipal Board or the current Ontario Land Tribunal? We have nothing to stand by. If we want to show leadership, my submission is Richmond Hill show leadership. We do have a plan. Our plan is different from the provincial mandated TOC, but at this point in time, as the speaker before me, the province has absolutely the power and jurisdiction on the enhanced MZO for this area. And I also want to say one thing. I am finding it interesting that talking about, maybe I'll come back second round, but very quickly, a number of things talk about parking, talk about road congestion, but the very foundation for work is that for subway, mass transit, get people to use the public transit. So I have no reservations, but to say Now's the time to show leadership. Now's the time to show what it means. Can it improve upon? Of course, yes.
Okay.
So I'm in support of the motion, and I'd like to have opportunity to come back second round if it does happen. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. The next person is Councillor Davidson.
Thank you. And through you, Mr. Chair, I do want to thank the residents that take the time, are passionate about our city and oppose much of the this plan. And I want to say the EMZO was issued in April in 2022, and it allows the minister to completely remove site plan control from the municipality. And the city was also informed that high tech, that decision is final, and we're not asking your opinion. So we know that these MZO for this area raised the density, the population, and lowered the jobs. And I feel that staff is working to fill in areas that are not so directly prescribed by the EMZO and provide other uses for that area that are not laid out. There's sort of areas that we can work on. And I want to say that like every plan this city does, I think we can all agree as a council that this is just the start. It's a living document. We don't know what the next 10, 20, 50 years holds. So we have to start somewhere. And, you know, we've been dealt these cards by the province, and we can either fold or we can play the hand we've been dealt. And I just don't see how we can get anything we want by not facing reality and then playing these cards. And it's not whether we agree or disagree. It's figuring out a way to provide leadership in this community to work with the province. And hopefully this will be viewed in a way that allows us to negotiate on other things like green areas and shows good faith in a way because we don't have a choice. So we can have impact in other areas that we also disagree with. So I appreciate resident comments, and I'm sure they're going to keep coming, and I hope they do. That's all I wanted to say. I do support this plan.
Thanks very much. Next person on the list is Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. Through the chair, I also want to thank everybody that's participated in this process. I mean, this is something that affects us all, and we all look at things through a different lens. I get that, and I try to appreciate the views that everybody's bringing forward. Having said that, and I've followed council for quite some time, I don't think there's ever been a secondary plan that's been popular with everybody. You're just not going to please everybody, no matter what. Everybody's going to say you shoulda, coulda, woulda, and you didn't. That's just how it goes. And you know, you look at the previous secondary plan that we had, and it got squashed. I bet there's a lot of people who would love to have that secondary plan back today. The big problem that we have right now, and this has been mentioned so many times, is the EMZO that fits within the Richmond Hill Center. And what I'm hearing is everybody's looking for some way that we can mitigate, you know, what's happening within the EMZO. And it's like you're looking for something that will offset what is happening there. And that would be if we tried to build that in for the rest of the surrounding area within the Richmond Hill Center, we'd be penalizing that particular area just to try and offset what's happening. And that would be inappropriate. You know, we need to make sure that we have a policy that would be defensible. I can just see where if somebody went to the OLT because they didn't get, you know, an application, they'll be saying, well, look at this. They set up this plan so that, you know, it was clearly just to offset what was happening within the TOC. I don't want to see that. We have to look at this smartly, and I believe that that's what this plan does. The other thing that's been mentioned many times here is the evolution over the years. And in that respect, if I'm not mistaken, we do regularly monitor what is happening, and that every 5 years, I believe, the whole process is reviewed. But that's not to say that we have to wait 5 years. I believe that we have that opportunity to move things forward as things happen, as we move along. So, I think we have that opportunity, but I think the main thing is we need to have that policy because as Deputy Mayor Chan had mentioned, it just leaves us too exposed at OLT. So those are my comments. I will be supporting this motion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Liu.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and also thank you for our staff for the report, and also thank you for all the delegates and who actually care about this plan over the years. A lot have been said, and I agree with 99% of them. I'm not going to repeat them, but I think the keywords today is a policy framework. We need a policy framework in place to move forward. Approving this secondary plan today is not the end of it. It's the beginning of this. And this is a living document. And I think this document will live longer than me. Is 50 years we're talking about. So sitting on this side of the bench, I'm always mindful that we are planning for our generations to come. We are planning for our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren. So we don't have a crystal ball, what 2073 will look like. The world is ever changing. Technology is ever changing. Lifestyle is ever changing. And legislation is ever changing. So we don't know how many more EMZO, whatever is going to come throughout the next 50 years. So that's why we need a policy framework in place to start the conversation to move forward. So, in 50 years, we might not have a traffic problem. 60 stories might be low density. We never know. So we have to start somewhere. So that's why I think this is a good start. The only thing I would like to ask is there a reporting process? Because when I look at the next steps, following the approval of this secondary plan, staff will evaluate the need for additional work to support implementation and report back to council as part of a subsequent budget process. So, thank you. So through you, Mr. Mayor, maybe the public or for myself, is there a reporting process or is there an updating process throughout the next little while? Except for budget, any update? Is there going to be a regular report every 6 months or something like that through you, Mr. Mayor?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. There's an evaluation process that occurs around monitoring the effectiveness of policies, and so that will be ongoing. There's also a regular review of secondary plans, and not only in Richmond Hill Centre, but across the city around evaluating the effectiveness of policy within those metrics and making recommendations to council on potential updates. In parallel to that, there is also an evaluation that we're going to need to do over the next several months to turn our attention to the implementation of the secondary plan and what type of enabling works or potential additional policy development that might be required to support the implementation of the plan. And we intend to do that over the next several months and bring something forward for council's consideration as part of the next budget process.
Thank you very much. That's good to know. And, I think that's a very good process. So every time when there's a review coming back, the public can engage, they can comment, and we can, keep changing, keep adjusting. So I think, this is important that we approve this plan today and start moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Okay, I've just got some comments as well. I appreciate all that has been said here today, and thank you to my colleagues here on council. There's been some really good points made, and I thank you to the residents that have come out and provided an opposing view, but I think, we need to hear that, and we have been listening to that. I just want to highlight a few points here. 2/3 of the density or somewhere thereabouts are part of the EMZO. And I think it's very important to understand that we don't have a choice about that. That was imposed on us by the province in, I think it was April of last year. There are some other parts of the lands that are within our control, and the secondary plan covers that. But as I mentioned the other day, a lot of that land is already spoken for. I mean, storm ponds, it's hydro corridors, it's established school and the Langstaff Community Center. It's buildings that haven't been built very long ago, and they're certainly not going to change anytime soon. So for the most part, the way I see this plan is that it creates policies where the EMZO and other aspects of this plan are silent. It directs everything, including the EMZO part and the other part, to be the best that it possibly can be. And it fills in policy vacuums. And I think that's really important. Councillor Silovitz had mentioned that, on the west side of Yonge, which I'm very concerned about too, without a policy framework like this, the west side of Yonge would be in danger of having buildings that are of unlimited height. So I think not passing a policy like this would not be better than passing a policy like this. I think this is the best situation that we have. The other thing that I think I need to reiterate is that, we as council and the previous council worked very hard when the EMZO idea started coming forward. The first motion I made as mayor was to have a mandate from council to go to the province and talk to them about all the things that we felt were concerning about this proposed at that time plan, including affordable housing, including density, and including the mix of employment. We did win minor victories on that, and I thank staff for the work that they did throughout that process. There are the major things like affordable housing, the fact that there's no designation for affordable housing in the EMZO, I think is something that is egregiously incorrect and needs to be fixed. I think the densities for residential are still too high, and I think the densities for employment uses are still too low. But these are all things that we have lots of time to work on. This plan is going to be built out over decades, not years. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see very little development on those lands until the subway actually gets here. And that's obviously a component that's been mentioned in these conversations that's really important. So I understand the concerns that the residents have. I have the same concerns, and I have had the same concerns when I was a councillor. I have had the same concerns after becoming the mayor. And I know from speaking to my colleagues that we all share the same concerns as well. But I think, this is not the front in the battle here. The front in the battle is when things start to come as applications for development and the discussing with stakeholders between now and then to make the plan as good as it can be. So I think those are the things. I'm glad that we had the question asked about the monitoring policy. I know, Mr. Arulo, you and I have talked about that because I think that's a very good point. Any plan, not just this plan, needs to be monitored frequently to make sure that the assumptions are correct and things are progressing the way that they should be progressing in a way that's beneficial to the community. So I want to say we've talked a lot on this time here about the potential concerns that we have, but I also want to say that this concept of a new downtown is an exciting one. There is lots of potential here to create something that really is vibrant, really defines Richmond Hill. It's a completely different urban environment than what we have in the rest of our suburban environment. It creates jobs, it creates transit, it creates all kinds of opportunities for restaurants and patios and commercial enterprises that don't exist today. Nothing is going to be perfect. I think it was Councillor Thompson that made a really good point that I don't recall any secondary plans that we've ever approved that everybody's been on board with. I suppose that I had to laugh a little bit when he said that because it's true. It's probably the same that goes for this one as well. I will probably reserve a second round here because I'm out of time, but is there anybody else that would like to be on second round? Okay, Regional Local Councillor Chan and then Councillor Tree. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm glad you're talking about the bright future, the exciting moments. Some of us have been waiting for years. I used the word last week at the committee when I was chair, the last one to speak. I'm extremely excited. Let me repeat again. I'm extremely excited because that we talk about no plan is perfect. No 100% of people, whether businesses or residents of the 220,000 strong in Richmond Hill would ever say, yes, 100% endorsement. I think the best community survey we have is only 96% of people satisfy our services. So the opportunity is thinking about all this is based upon the foundation, whereas the future subway is coming. The vision is not so much to have more cars to congest our road. The objective is to have 15-minute, that's what the planner has been telling us, complete walkable communities. Think about excitement. We have a unique position in Yonge and Highway 7 in the metropolitan Toronto area that to form a new kind of urban, as the former document of the official plan has been saying, because we're going through update now. And the idea is that when the subway comes as a long-time proponent, it actually reduce the number of buses running on Yonge Street corridor. It actually to have improvements in terms of reducing environmental emissions. And on the exciting part of building that vibrancy, as the mayor just talking about, that bringing traffic, pedestrian traffic, I mean, not car traffic, that really forming in the term I coined back in June 2008, I believe, or even earlier, building the Union Station of the North, where there is really a prosperous place to be, and putting Richmond Hill on the map as a new place in the GTA area, so that we can request Ministry of Transportation to change this, the destination of downtown Richmond Hill on 404 before you go to Major Mac, change it to Highway 7 and 404. And I'm in full support of this Richmond Hill Center second plan. Yeah, as I said before, what's the alternative? Do nothing is totally not acceptable. And many of my colleagues already said we need to have policy framework which can be improved upon. It's not the end of it, so that we have something to deal with the application in process or in the future. So I fully embrace that we are moving forward to build a new downtown Richmond Hill. I would keep saying that, Union Station to the north. And this is one of the urban growth center destiny long before the provincial government kicks in this EMZO. So this has been the outlook of this city or this town or the region for a long, long time. Thank you very much. And I look forward to walking in that 15-minute complete community so that can do everything for all the citizens and businesses in Richmond Hill. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I hope we can pass this. I hope, but we'll see whether in fact unanimously or not. Thank you.
Councillor Tree.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through Mr. Chair, first one, I just want to echo our deputy mayor's comments here. So I was a new elected. So for this second plan or the downtown Richmond Hill downtown development plan, for me, I'm pretty new. I only know this from a few months ago. I'm seeing maybe a lot of residents living in North Side, which is not in the Ward 6, Ward 5, maybe has less attention to the city's development down there. So for me, I haven't heard any public meeting or open house in the history. I think this maybe I just echo this one because I'm trying to say maybe a lot of the residents never pay attention until recently they come up with this new proposal and we have put our efforts there. So this is my comment. The second one is question to our city staff or our director, Anthony. Regarding to the Q&A, I heard we have at least 4 times open houses. Is there any way those questions or concerns raised up from community can be published to our web portal? This way, all the residents in future, they can track down what answers, what questions has been challenged, has been answered. Is that possible?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So our public open houses, a number of them have been recorded and were made available to the public, and in fact are on the city's website. So if people want to go on to those meetings and see the questions that were asked and how they were answered, that's all publicly available through the city's YouTube channel. In terms of questions that we received through the process, attachment 2 of the report did include an answer to all formal questions we received. And so we have provided a formal response by way of a written attachment to this report.
Okay, my next question regarding to the future, as our councilor said, so in the future, just a living book, we may have facing more and more questions. For example, currently we have a lot of questions resolved from parents, from the residents already. In this case, in future, how can we ensure from city perspective to guarantee those questions being answered, being received, and also being answered from what type of channel? I'm assuming it should be a channel because I'm assuming through those 40 years, 50 years development, more questions pop up, more challenges pop up. How we from city perspective, there could be a channel, either open house or portals or emails. I'm assuming we are already out there. So is there any assurance city can put in forward to guarantee the voices from residents can be heard, can be answered as well? I think that my question is how are they going to be answered? They have a feedback.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I think our project team has always been open to meeting with residents, answering questions from residents. And in fact, leading into this discussion today, we've had regular engagement with a number of residents. And so we're always open to having conversations, answering questions. It's what we do as a sort of normal course as part of our work. And we continue to encourage discussions with residents around specific applications as they come forward, or potentially some downstream implementation work, or even as we advance potential discussions around the review and update of the secondary plan. And so all the work that we do as a project team is focused on engaging the public, and we plan to continue to do that. And so earlier I was asked, and I mentioned work around potentially considering implementation policies and strategies that support the secondary plan. All of those would have a public component, potentially, like if we were, say, going to move forward with a community improvement plan to incentivize certain types of developments, particularly in areas perhaps where the EMZO is a little soft in terms of its delivery of what the city is looking for. That process would be a public process where we would engage stakeholders and gather feedback. All of our discussions with council clearly are in open forum, and members of the public have the opportunity to delegate and ask questions. And all of our reports are published in advance so that if there's questions for staff, we're happy to sit down with residents and have those conversations as well. So, we really do focus on trying to be open and easy to engage as a staff supporting council through policy.
Okay, perfect. My last question maybe is here, because this is really the rule proposal. If during our practice or exercise through the years, if we find some things maybe is not fit for our city development, or there is a big gap, which is not as what we planned or expected at that time, because it's been approved by York region, how can we adjust if something goes wrong, or we amendment or whatever? Is that going to be decided by city or going to be decided by York region?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the city does have the ability to advance amendments to its secondary plan. And as part of our regular review of the secondary plan, we will be evaluating the effectiveness of its policies and making recommendations to council as part of a standard review process. Beyond that, as part of those processes, the city also has the ability to approach the province, and in particular the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, to request amendments to the EMZO if there's evidence that demonstrates that there's on-the-ground challenges that the city is experiencing. Now, the decision around what the minister does is at the full discretion of the minister. And so we don't have control over what the minister ultimately directs in the EMZO area based on current legislation. But we do have the ability to, as part of a review, approach the ministry and identify areas of concern and seek a potential resolution through an amendment to the EMZO directed by the minister.
Yeah, for example, last week, our Deputy Mayor Gordon asked questions regarding a job cutoff. Compared with our original one, we cut off a lot of works, a lot of jobs here as well. Potentially, we do have a capability to comply or submit the request to municipal, to province, to ask for possibility of a job increasement here, right?
Through you, Mr. Chair, council is already on record as requesting that the EMZO be amended to increase the employment. And so that request has already been advanced through council. That being said, the secondary plan policies themselves look to encourage additional employment beyond what the province is requiring by way of the EMZO. And we introduced policies through the secondary plan that say things like maximize opportunities for major office as an example. And that really provides a policy framework for the city to continue the discussions with the province and the landowners around increasing the non-residential GFA that's proposed in the EMZO. As we, on the economic development side, we're also motivated to demonstrate by way of investment attraction work that there is a market for major office and begin to introduce potential investment opportunities to the landowners and to the province to try to also increase that non-residential GFA in the EMZO. And so we are motivated to see those numbers, the employment numbers in particular, increase. And personally, I'm extremely motivated because I also oversee the economic development portion of the city's work here, and it's an important priority for me. So it's definitely something that I will be tracking.
Okay, I think I'm maybe used up my time already. I just want to comment here. Maybe in future we have more different opinions, or from residents, or from council, or from city staff. Is there any way council members here can organize certain either public meeting or public forum to discussing those discrepancies, different opinions or different data as possible? Or it's also, I don't know.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you can have a public meeting whenever you want. I mean, there are some rules around that, but councillors can organize that whenever you'd like. I mean, the city organizes public meetings on subject-related issues, but public meetings are a good way for councillors to get the word out to the public. I can certainly talk to you about that on offline.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay, I guess the next person is me. Is there anybody else that wants to speak a second? Okay, Councillor Thompson, go ahead.
Thank you. Through the chair, I know that Councillor Tree was trying to get to a particular answer, and I'm not sure that you actually got the answer you were looking for. So I'll try and phrase it a little bit differently. And that is, when we have stakeholders that are asking questions and so forth, and I understand you're certainly replying to all those stakeholders, or at least to that individual stakeholder that has asked the question. I guess the question that you're trying to get at is, how do we get that answer back to all the stakeholders? So is there a mechanism where we either have a portal or an FAQ site or something like that, so that we're not just answering one-on-one with the various stakeholders that are out there? Would that be correct, Councillor Tree?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Further to my previous response, all of the engagement that we've done, at least since I've been in this role, has all been recorded. And so all of that, if anyone had an interest in evaluating the questions that were asked in our response, it's all on our website available for review. And so members of the public, members of council, anyone really who has an interest in that has access to that information. When it comes to formal correspondence that we've received, and we did receive some specific formal correspondence, we, as attachment to this report, we've published our response to those questions for everyone to see. And so we've everything that we've provided by way of response is available for the public, council, really anyone to access, outside of one-on-one conversations that we've had, with a resident who's called us and said, hey, I got an interest in this. Can we chat about that? Clearly, we're not going to be documenting and publishing those types of interactions. But anything that's been in the public forum, at least since I've been in this role, is is available.
Definitely appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else on a second round? Okay, just a little bit of housekeeping to finish off what I was saying earlier, and I'll start with that. I think you know, I realize that these meetings that we're having recently are not as exciting as they've been maybe in the past, but what I will say though is that both of these meetings, both the COW meeting last week and this meeting today, collectively have an enormous amount of information in them. At the COW meeting the other day, we had a 25-minute presentation, very thorough by our staff and our consultant about the plan and all the infinite little details. And if people are willing to, you know, wade through some of that, and I get it, it's not as exciting as Netflix, but if you go through that, there's just an enormous amount of information that's available there. And the comments today from council have been very good. I think we've touched on a lot of points that are important, and I thank all of my colleagues for doing that. So, you know, in terms of where information is found, I mean, you know, Mr. Arulo mentioned, you know, a lot of what we've done up to this point, and it's been substantial, is documented. It's out there. Questions have been answered. The answers are there. So, you know, anything we can do to streamline that and make it easier for people to find, I mean, of course, we're going to do that. But anyway, that's one thing. The second thing I just wanted to mention is I just want to reiterate that, you know, the affordable housing piece is really important to this. And I'm still really unhappy about this aspect of the plan, that the fact that there are not significant minimum requirements for affordable housing that's more affordable to more people in this plan is, I think, is something we really need to work on with the provincial government. And I mean, we have time to do it, but to build this amount of density in our community as a kind of clean slate and not be able to say, okay, and we're going to really take care of one of the most important things that we have to deal with right now, which is housing that's affordable to more people. It seems like a giant waste of an opportunity. So I can tell you right now, I will be working hard over the next little while to get that word out. And I hope that our council members will do the same because I think that's really important. The commercial, I know that the way that this has been worded is that there's a floor to the minimum amount of commercial space that's going to be in this plan. That is a significant change to what was initially proposed in this EMZO, was a fixed amount. The reason it's subtle, but the reason that it's been written that way is it's a bit of a victory, I think, in a way, or it's the prelude to a victory, because that allows us to do the same amount of lobbying with stakeholders, with the province, with all those others, to make sure that the plan area has lots and lots of employment in it. That is really, really going to be important in our future. At the present moment, I don't think it's enough, but it could very well be, and I'm confident that we can get to that place. The one thing, you know, we talk about this being Union Station, and I actually am not really thrilled with that example, because there's so much different between the context of this and the context of Union Station. But in fairness, what the reference is really referring to, in my view, is the fact that we probably have, I suspect I'm correct on this, the best offering of transportation anywhere in Canada in this plan area. I mean, we've got GO, we've got Viva, we've got BRT, we've got everything except a seaport, which we won't be getting. But you know, those are really important details, and I think that's the part that makes this plan really exciting too. Is that there's a lot of benefit to make this the hub of so many different things, and it is a future plan, but it is one that I think we need to continue to capitalize to make sure that it works really well. I remember late Mayor Dave Barrow used to say, you know, oftentimes in Richmond Hill, our goal in the last number of years is building a city and a town. And I've always appreciated that, because I think that's what we're doing here today. I mean, we are a city now, but we are building something that's not to be found in our offerings in our suburban environment right now in this place. And we have the time to get it right. And I think it is really exciting. So I look forward to the work that we need to do to make this the best that it can be. So on that note, I'll ask Councillor Silovich, you had requested to wrap up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I want to thank all my council colleagues for their excellent words of wisdom here. and their inclusion in this discussion. Very, very important. I believe it shows that we're not a rogue council. We're a council that is thinking together. We are a council that appears to agree with what should be or would be in the best interests of our city, of our residents of this particular location that we are discussing today. I would imagine that everyone in this room has seen the movies Blade Runner. The last thing we want to do is have a vision of Blade Runner in front of us all the time down at the Richmond Hill Center. That is what we are trying to prevent. We're doing our very, very best. And I stand by that. I want to also just reiterate that the necessity of having this secondary plan in place is to protect the areas that are outside of the identified EMZO. That is our critical duty. We have to ensure the integrity of all of those other areas outside of the EMZO. And that is what we are doing here. And again, my thanks to staff and Mr. Ayurila's team and everybody who has worked so hard on this and so long. And every resident who has ever come to us, has ever participated in a public meeting. Thank you. Thank you for your comments here today. They're all valid. They're all valid. But because we feel, and certainly myself, that the necessity of approving this secondary plan today and not waiting any further is just that. We need to have that within our grasp. There is already one application before the OLT. It's on the north side of Garden and Young Street. By putting this plan in place, we give and enable our staff the ability to speak at OLT in the defense of our city. And that is incredibly important. So again, I urge you, we share your frustrations, we understand your frustrations, but I urge you to have discussions with our school boards, with our MPPs, and with Queen's Park. If you feel that you want to see anything done here that is of major, major difference, we have done that on your part. We have done our work diligently and dutifully, and I stand by that. So with that, I would finish what I'm saying, wrap up. And again, my thanks to everybody. And Mr. Clerk, I ask for a recorded vote for the public record. And if you could put the motion on the screen, I would appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Thank you, everybody. And Mr. Clerk, over to you.
Excuse me. Through the chair, voting on the motion moved by Councillor Silovitz, seconded by Councillor Hsu to adopt the committee of the whole recommendations. Councillor Silovitz.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Liu.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Davidson.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Tree.
Yes.
Thank you. Regional and Local Councillor DePaula.
Yes.
Thank you. Regional and Local Councillor Chan.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Hsu.
Yes.
Thank you. Mayor West.
Yes.
Thank you. That carries unanimously.
Okay, thank you. The next item on the agenda is for us to go into closed session. Oh, do I do bylaws first? Okay, so we have bylaws 18.5 and all the way 18.1 to 18.5. We're going to motion for that. Regional Local Councillor Chan, seconded by Councillor Silovitz. All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, that carries. Thank you. Carries unanimously, sorry. The next item then, we're going to go into closed session, but I would recommend that we take a 15-minute break just to do what we need to do and be back here for closed session after that. Should we, Mr. Clerk?
I thank you. If I might then, through the Through the chair, then I suggest the motion be simply that the council meeting be recessed for 15 minutes and upon reconvening, council be deemed to have moved into closed session to consider personal matters about identifiable individuals, including municipal or local board employees with respect to a facility naming pursuant to section 239 2B of the Municipal Act 2001.
Very efficient. All right. Who wants to do both of those things at once? Councillor Liu, Councillor Tree, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries unanimously. Thank you very much. So